Hey, what's going on everyone? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get some ambient sound effects from Wwise into Unreal, as well as some object sounds. They're both sort of ambient sounds, but I'm going to be showing you how to see the attenuation spheres on them and get some occlusion going and some other things along the way. Alright, cool. Let's get started. So the first thing you want to do, of course, you need to have your project integrated with Wwise already. I'm going to be showing you a demo project, and this is a project that I've worked on in a previous game jam. So the first thing, of course, you want to open up your project. I do have a previous video on how to integrate your project with Wwise and Unreal, and if you want to check that out, just go there. Here, okay, so I'm going to open up Wwise for starters. Alright, so the first sort of thing here I've got is what's called the random container. It just plays every single sound inside that container, randomly. In order to do that, really all you got to do is just right click on the actor mixer hierarchy, and then you can just hit new child, and then you can hit the random container. You can call it whatever you want. And then once you've got all your sounds, you just put them, you import your sounds, Shift I. You can add your files here. You go find it on your browser and import that, and that should be going in there just fine. Okay, so what I've got here is just 4 audio files. This is just a robot loop. The one important thing here, when you put in your sounds, depending on if it's a looping sound, you want to make sure that you set it to loop. So that's right over here. Yeah, you set that to loop. And I'm just going to quickly play the audio for you so you can hear. Okay, cool. So that's the audio for the little robots. Now I made a couple of different ones, and the reason why I did that was because I didn't want them all to start. It's one sort of loop that I created in my digital audio workstation. What I wanted to do is just separate it at different points in time. You can sort of do that in Wwise. However, it was easier to do it just as a random container, so this is what I ended up doing. So anyways, yeah, so I put in all the files into here. I've also put in a reverb as well. So I'm just going to go here and add an auxiliary bus, and we're going to call this reverb. Fantastic. Alright, so you just click on this, and then in here you want to go, it's going to be set to general settings, just go to effects, you can click onto here, and you can add whatever effects. I believe the one that I'm using is Reverb. So in the space that I'm using, the world that I'm using, it's like a dome. It's like a giant dome. So I think what I set it to was just like a hall, or I don't know. It doesn't really matter too much. It's just called hall park. So now I have my, a reverb going. The way you set up in your tracks is you go to your container or your individual track, for example, and you're gonna go under your auxiliary bus. So you can think of this as like a send. In the same way. So you can also control the amount that is going in. I believe to make everything work, you got to go use game def. Yeah, so what you want to do is use game defined auxiliary send. So actually what we'll do is we'll just take this off. We'll switch over to here. Okay, so we switch over to the reverb. Now this is going to be on all of them. And now if I go over here, you can hear there's a lot of reverb there. Now I can totally take it off. And it's gone, right? So this is basically your send amount you can think of right here. So I'm just going to add a little bit. Now the cool thing about this, if you're working with any type of container, you can just put that on here, and then this will be the sort of parent of everything else. So you don't have to apply it to everything. And then the other one that I have here is an ambience. Now this is just basically, you can think of it as a 2D sound. Just to differentiate, I've got the robot sound, which is basically a sound in-game, which is an object, which is going to be playing the sound. And that's going to have its own attenuation sphere. And the ambience is going to be something that's just playing, 2D, as it were. And there's no directional component to it or distance related thing. It's just you'll always be hearing it. Okay, cool. So with this one, real simple. Again, I'm making sure that I'm looping it. You can also put a reverb on it too, which is probably you can do that. I'm not going to do it just for the time being. What I want to sort of show you guys, when you initially go into, like, you're setting up your objects and you're placing them into the level, you normally don't have the attenuation sphere visible unless you're actually adding sounds using the in-game built-in audio system with Unreal. Yeah, normally if you've got the attenuation spheres, they're not going to show by default. And so what you want to do is go over to project settings, go over to Soundbanks, and for me, when I first did this, I believe these ones were not checked. Max attenuation, generate JSON metadata, and generate per bank metadata file. You want to select all three and hit OK. Now that should fix your issue. And what you'll see is you'll actually see the attenuation sphere. Okay, so now to set the distance for the attenuation spheres and what other objects you have, the first thing you want to go do is work with share sets. Now I've actually already created one, but I'll show you a new one just for the sake of it. All you got to do is click on your default work unit right over here, and you can, I guess you can right click. This is easier to show. Attenuation. Okay, and then we'll just call it new. I don't know. You don't have to call it new attenuation. You just call it whatever you want. Double click on it. This will pop up for you. Now, this is tricky. The max distance is relative to whatever is in your game engine. I'm going to show you an easy tip when you're in the game engine to calculate the distance of it, because sometimes, depends if some people, if they work with like a 6-foot person reference, the distance generally is the same, but sometimes in a project, we scale things down or scale things up. That's just my experience. You want to be able to just know how far something is. And again, the attenuation spheres are awesome at doing and showing you that. But then I'll also show you a way to determine the distance when you're in Unreal Engine. I'm just going to put in, the distance that I set for my game. And that's about 8,000. Okay. So you'll be able to determine that through a bit of trial and error. And unfortunately, you'll see actually it's easier to do once you see it in Unreal Engine. But anyway, so all you got to do in here, you can set this to whatever you want. You just right click on the actual line. So you can set that, and then you can also go in here and, click. You can set it to whatever you want, and then, like it can kind of go like that or something. And then what we can do is go over here with your low pass filter. This is really important to put in. This is also how we hear sound in real life. So just go to custom. Now everything is going to be set to the default thing you set in the beginning, so you don't need to worry about it. But what you can see here on the y-axis is your low pass filter, and as the distance increases, the low pass filter is, starting to move over. It's not an exact thing. I wish it really gave you in hertz, how much it was actually filtering off, but I would imagine that, as when you go to 100%, everything's getting cut off. Yeah, I mean, you can do the same sort of things you've been doing with the other ones, so you can set it, do whatever you want. The last one, I guess, to use as well is spread. This is basically when you are close to an object, you don't want it to be really, really pinpoint. You want it to sort of be around the object a little bit. So you can do that and set to the spread. Now, generally, if you're doing the spread, again, on the y-axis, this is 100% spread. So what you can do, just do that, and then you can, set it off so you're not really getting that spread because you want it to be more directional. So I guess you can do something like that, or maybe like that. Cool. So now that we've got our stuff set, we can go in and set it up. So now that we've created a share set, what a share set basically is something that shares a set of configurations for your distance attenuation whenever you apply a low pass filter or spread and the volume. And it allows you to apply it over everything, which is really, really handy instead of just doing it one by one. So yeah, we're going to go back, and then we can click on one of the, oh, sorry, my bad. I'm going to go to the container, and generally you're in general settings. Go over here to positioning, You want to set this 3D spatialization to position and orientation. And you want to go over to here, and you can select your new one here. Robot, which one? New attenuation is what I said. And then you can also go in here and individually manipulate it. If, like, for example, you put this on many tracks, and you want to say, oh, I want this to be a little bit different. I want, you know, this one to be like that. So you can do that. If it's like an individual track, you just want to make sure that in here you hit override parent if you end up doing something like that for an individual track. But in this case, you don't really need to override parent because this is the parent, right? It won't make any sense. I'm just going to go set it to, because this is kind of ridiculous, I'm going to set it to the one that I had before. But all that is look, I'll just show you too as well. This is what I had set before. Low pass filter, like, you know, nothing crazy. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go to project settings, and obstruction and occlusion. In order to understand how obstruction and occlusion works, you first need to understand how sound works. So when we hear sound, we hear a mixture of a couple different things. We hear the direct sound, we hear the reflections, we can call them the early reflections, and then we hear the late reflections, which is things that are being bounced off, basically. We can sort of classify early reflections and late reflections into this sort of same thing. But the way obstruction works is you've got your direct sound that's coming to you. Now, so obstruction is like something that's in the way, but you know, around it, sound can go around. Of course, this, you know, sound will go through this and affect it, you know, the direct sound. But the sound coming around it, those reflections, those early and late reflections are going to bounce into my ears. And so I'm going to be able to hear those as well. So obstruction is something that's more open, you know, and the sound is also going around. Those reflections are hitting your ears, and the direct sound is the only thing that's being affected. With occlusion, it's different in the sense that everything that's being blocked. And so you've got your direct sound, that's of course being affected, but the reflected sound is also not getting through. And so yeah, in both of these scenarios, there's a way to implement it into Wwise. I won't go into it, of course, because of the scope of this video, but yeah, with Unreal Engine, it's very difficult to get it to work. Unreal uses occlusion, and it doesn't really have an obstruction, at least from what I'm aware of at this point. And the annoying part about it is that it's like 100% occlusion or like not. What I'm going to be showing you is just trying to find a decent value that doesn't lead to the most realistic thing, of course, but it also doesn't break your immersion when you just like go behind something. You're like, why did the sound just disappear? So that's what I'm going to be trying to show you. So don't worry about the obstruction and volume. Occlusion, volume, and they also have the low pass. So the low pass filter is, of course, you can set that. So, you know, you can see here, this is the amount. And so that when it's at 100% occlusion, which it's going to be, I want, you know, you can do it half, or, you know, like 65. I found out 65 is good, where it's like most things that you're going to be going in between, it will kind of, you know, get rid of quite a bit of those frequencies. But then again, like the further you are out, and then potentially more objects that could be occluding you or obstructing, then, you know, multiple things sort of factor into it, where it's like, okay, well, it's also the distance that you're from it, and then also something obstructing. So I found that just by and large, this is the best so far, and I will of course be looking to other solutions, and I will post them if I learn. Okay, cool. So yeah, just make sure you set that, just do that, drag it up to there, and then with the volume, I'm not bringing it down that much. I believe by default it's set like that, so you don't want it to be doing that. I think you want it to just be doing it a little bit. So yeah, something like that is what I set. Okay, just hit OK. So to pretty much finish it off with Wwise, all you got to do is get everything into your events and into your Soundbanks. So in order to do that, you've got all your stuff, your tracks in your audio area, this tab here. You want to go over to the events. I've set this up pre-hand before, but all you got to do is just right click under the default work unit, or on the default work unit, sorry. Go to event. You can call it whatever you want. Ambience 1. Okay, that's just because I already made one. And now you're going to get this part here. What you want to do is you want to click and drag whatever audio or container you want to bring into here. And then you can also, you don't always have to make it just play. You can make it do other things. Just click on it and you can do other different things here. So then once you have that, all you got to do is just go to your layouts, go to Soundbank. All you have to do is simply just create a new work unit. I'll just do one for the sake of it, okay? New. Yeah, you just got to create a new one here. And then once you have this, then you can just drag your event in there. Hit like that. Normally, I think these are not selected by default. Just select those and hit generate all. This little guy is going to pop up. And then you just want to hit project and save. Cool. And that's pretty much it. Now let's go over to Unreal and set this up. Okay, so here is Unreal Engine. I've got a lot of stuff open already, as you can see. So the first thing I'm going to do, you got to make sure that you have your sound bank. If you need to do that, you just go to Audio Kinetic Bank. You name that. Make sure that that is the same name of the bank that's up here. Yeah, so once you have that, then what you can do is go into your window, Wise Picker, default work unit, and then you can select whichever one, ambient, robot, or robot loop. I already have it put in here, so I'm just not going to put it in. But what you want to do, once you put it in, double click on it, or you can right click too. Just go sound effects, and then this is going to be set to like none or something like that. Just make sure you select on that one, hit save, and then go back. When I mean right click, I just meant this. You know, you right click, and I believe it's edit. Yeah. Okay. So now both of your sounds are in. You've got an ambient sound, and then you've got, you know, an object sort of sound. Okay, so with an ambient sound, actually the best thing to do is just get rid of the blueprint. We'll do it again. We'll do it live. All right, there we go. All right, so we put the thing into the map. It does not matter where we put it. Preferably out of the level designer's way. And now go over to the right here. You're going to hit blueprint, add script. Go to event graph, drag off event, begin play. We're going to hit post event. We're going to select our, you know, whatever loop it is. This is, oh, sorry, it's actually the ambience one, my bad. And then hit self. Cool. And then that should be it. You want to hit compile, save. So the last thing you want to do is make sure you set your occlusion refresh interval to 0. Now the occlusion refresh interval is quite simply just how quickly the game updates when you go behind an object like this. So now that object now, like, so if I was here and I just did that, how quickly that, you know, updates in the game. So we set up the ambience, that's good. Now we also want to get in the robot loop sound effect. Actually, sorry, so one thing I want to show you before that. Okay, we were talking about the distance attenuation and being able to see those attenuation spheres. And now, if we actually bring one of these dudes, this is the robot loop, if we bring it in, we'll actually be able to see the attenuation sphere. I'll kind of, oh, geez, that's the wrong one. I'm going to back, okay, so now you can actually see it. It's quite large. This is, for me, this is 8,000. You can see, yeah, that's like covering the whole map. Here, don't worry about this. I just put this as a reference. This is the actual blueprint. It's the exact same thing, right? So it's got the same attenuation. You can actually see it here. That's the attenuation. And so what I wanted to just show you is just a quick way of referencing how far the distance is in game. So all you got to do, just kind of zoom out a little bit, is click on this little overlapping squares. You're going to get, I forget what the name is, orthographic or something like that. Anyways, you can see here that we've got many different, well, like it looks like there's just 2 views. In this purpose, I'm going to use this one, but I'm sure in your case, you're going to find something that works for you. All right, cool. So look at that. Now we actually have the distance. So all you got to do is middle click and drag it. Look at that. And now I can see that's 8,000. And you can, of course, do that in different parts of the map and be like, oh, all right, that's how big this is, and that's how big that is. All you need to do to go back is just click on this again, and then just click on, of course, this one in your viewport. The next thing we want to do, we can just go, I'll show you by just sort of adding one in here. So all you got to do is just go over to here, blueprint, add script. It's actually pretty much identically the same thing we're typing in, which is nice. You know, it makes our life easy. Robot loop, And then this is going to be self again. I'm going to say compile and save. Okay, so now this dude is going to make a bit of sound. All right. And now, of course, unfortunately, you're not able to see the attenuation sphere, but I did show you before. And so now you probably have a general estimation of that. You know, this is sort of the way you got to work with it. It's kind of annoying. And again, you know, if you have a better way of doing it, I would love to know. Okay, cool. But this is a decent system in how I've been doing it so far, and it's worked for me. So this is why I want to share it. Okay, cool. So now we've got the sound, and I'm trying to think of anything that I need to do. So we set the occlusion thing, and we set the distance attenuation. So we know that roughly in this area, and this is going to be the same for whatever map you create, it's going to be, you know, like it's going to dip the further you are away from it. And it's going to, I'll show you what the occlusion sounds like. So let's just get into the map. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to disable this so you can really, really hear the occlusion taking effect. So just, oh, cool thing, you can just hit Alt and then click, and then your node will go away, which is now, so now it's disabled, basically. Okay, cool. So we're going to hit play. Okay, so that's my sound coming from here. So you can actually see it already starts to attenuate the further I go away. Now, if I move away from it, let's do this slowly. You can hear how the low pass filter is affecting that now. Like, as we go further away, some of those higher frequencies are gone. Watch. You kind of hear that, like, really, really high stuff, and then as we go away, it starts to disappear. Okay, so now this is also the occlusion. Let's show you the occlusion. So it's not bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. So it's kind of believable. It's kind of believable, and this is what I was trying to say before, right? You want to find a happy medium, and you can also, of course, do this to taste too as well. You know, if you're in a giant glass area, the occlusion should probably be a lot less. But, you know, in this case, it's not bad, right? Like, it's semi-believable. Okay, I want to show you something, at least in the scenario of this game, that I had to do, and show you a setting in Wwise that you can do if you've got multiple objects. In Wwise, what you can do for your sounds is you can go... Oh, let's just first go into our designer, okay? And we're going to go to advanced settings. Now, I'm not sure, it's been a while since I like first started using Wwise, so I can't remember if it's on by default, but if it's not, you can just go to that plus here and then just hit advanced settings if it's not. I'm not sure if it is, but anyways, in here, this is not going to be actually, let me show you maybe. Okay, this is what it's going to look like by default. What this is going to do for you is it's going to set the amount of instances that, you know, sound when it's being triggered can play at a given time. So in the game that I'm doing, it's got like 30 or 40 plus robots in this room. The sound from that is a lot if you have all of them going, you know, and playing. So what you want to do, and actually what I did in the game here was, I think I set it to like 25 or something like that. You can play around with this and find whatever works for you. And let me just quickly explain this. So this is per game object. Generally, I like to set it for global. So this is globally, if we've got, as I was saying before, 30 robots, globally, it's only going to let 15 instances of the sound play. And so you might run into this situation where some of the sounds of the robots is not playing, or, you know, whatever your situation is. But you sort of have to judge that, you know, based on your own take of it. Like, you know, it might be too much, and that might affect the mix of other things. So I guess this is just a tool that you can use, and you can set it however you want. So now it's set a certain amount of, you know, sounds that's going to play in the map. And I can hit it, and, you know, it is a bit intense because you can't hear other things as well, but see if I go somewhere. I still get the impression that even though, like, okay, I could probably go to like one of these robots, Yeah, but there might be like one of them here that might not have a sound. So you just got to keep that in mind. So it's just kind of a balance you have to find. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for adding all the ambient and object sounds into the map. You know, again, we sort of went over all the attenuation settings and adjusting the low pass filter to make it sound more realistic over, you know, some distance. We kind of found a general occlusion setting that will work with, you know, Unreal and Wwise. But yeah, other than that, this video should hopefully serve as a great way to get started with some game sounds, adding your ambient and object sounds. Again, I'm going to be putting out some more videos in the future about everything that you're going to need to do basically for, you know, any sort of game jam or small game project, and all the things that you sort of need to know and learn. Yeah, if you really enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate a like, and consider subscribing, because again, there's going to be a lot more videos relating to this subject. All right, cool. That's pretty much it. Good luck with all your projects, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.